Right, good morning, afternoon, evening, goodbye. Welcome to All About the Bass. And I'm Nathan.
And I'm the captain. Sorry, I was just putting my guitar back and generally quietening things down. And today we are doing yet another in a long line of these kind of mini bass head demos. Our friends Laney from the Black Country. That wasn't a terribly good Black Country accent, that one, was it?
I don't know, it'll do.
Our friends Laney have taken their kind of cool series of bass heads, the Nexus series, which I think are the valve-driven heads, and made a Diddy one called the SLS, which is a valve preamp-driven 500-watt, feature-packed off-the-scale little bass.
Well, it's cool, but also in this review, it's slightly more interesting than just that. Yes, because also they've shoved it into a combo as well. So basically this thing is built into that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be playing through.
It's exactly the same amplifier.
Yeah, front end and back end and
absolutely.
everything, all exactly the same features.
We'll take you through the sort of knobs and buttons and stuff because it's pretty feature packed. So if you did decide to go for the head, the smallest cabinet that's like a matching cabinet from the Nexus range is a 210 or a 115, whichever is the sort of smaller one.
Right.
So they don't really do like a Diddy compact cab. So if you want something super, super small, check out the combo because that's got the 12-inch neodymium. So it's a fairly lightweight, what did we say this was? 19
and a
kilos?
half.
19 and a half? What's that in old money?
Kgs. I've no idea.
High 40s in terms of pounds?
I'm too
like
young,
that.
I wouldn't possibly
45,
know.
50 pounds, something like that. Or if you've got a cabinet already that you're happy with, or you're the kind of bass player that does gigs where 9 times out of 10 there's a cabinet provided at the gig and you just need something small and punchy to take around, perhaps the head would be a better angle. But I was telling Nathan before we started shooting this, a lot of the stuff on here is kind of reminding me of one of the, or a couple of the guitar amps that Laney have built over the last couple of years. The IRT Studio, and there's a little Lionheart Studio as well, where, and we'll get into this a bit more, but the amplifier is, in addition to being a very powerful amplifier, is a studio kind of tool as well with a USB output on here.
Well, this is great. I've never seen this. This is a new thing.
Yeah, so we might as well get the tech bit out the way. The USB
I don't
output
get out much.
does it records dry to one channel, saturated, if you like, EQ'd and saturated, amps tone, if you like, to the other channel. And what you can take is the dry channel of that it records out the USB, plug it back into the reamp input of the amplifier, and then redo all your bass sounds. So
but I mean, coolest of all, I guess this means you don't need an interface, right? If you've got a computer, you can just plug in to the USB socket on your computer.
Yeah.
As long as you've got some software, some recording software, of which there's loads out there, loads of free stuff.
Yeah.
Then you can just record yourself.
Yeah,
right?
it's hard to imagine anybody. I suppose. I mean, I said to Nathan when we first looked at this, it's like, well, if you're going to play into your computer, record into your computer, who's not going to have some sort of interface? And I suppose maybe some.
Lots of people.
Yeah,
I know people.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But it does give you. I like the reamp feature, to be honest with you, so that if you've recorded your bass line, you're just thinking, oh man, I just didn't quite get the growl there, or I've put too much growl in. That's probably more realistic. You can, as I said, you can reamp this, so your sequencer, your audio sequencer, will send the dry signal of your bass line back out into here, and then as you literally change the knobs on the front like this, you'll hear a new bass line, and then you can re-record it with the sound that you like.
Well, I never.
So anyway, look, let's get into it. So I'm going to put this down for a bit, and we're going to move over to the knobs on the combo, which you should be able to see on close-up cam.
Yeah. But everything that we're doing on the combo is exactly the same as on here. So this is just so you know. You can either buy the combo that's got a 112 in it, or you can go down this route. Because I think the reason some people might want to get the head and a separate cab is because they might want 10s,
sure,
or 15s,
for sure.
So
yeah, if it's this, they're only doing the SLS in a compact cab. I think they're not going to bother doing it in any bigger combos because then you just buy the head and the cab.
And so you're going to be listening to a combination of DI from the amp, and then we've got a mic on it as well.
I'm not sure how well. One of the things that the combo comes with is a high frequency driver, and there are some attenuation controls on the back of the cab for that. So I'm not sure, given where this microphone is positioned, how much you'll be able to hear that. But we'll try and fill you in. So anyway, look, pop this down here for a minute.
Yeah, what do you want for nothing?
Yeah, and it's very, very affordable, this. So let's just get, we've got everything flat at the moment. In fact, I'm going to need this for reference, otherwise I'm just going to be permanently looking away. Let's talk through the controls, and as I talk, you can kind of play and stuff. So the bottom row of controls are your relatively conventional, gain, some pre-shape EQ settings, bass, parametric mid-range, treble, volume control, and then tilt and touch, which are, again, sort of dynamic EQ-y kind of controls. There's some pretty cool pull pot stuff on here as well. Pull the gain control out and a compressor kicks in. Pull the volume control out and a mute kicks in. And pull the touch control out and it makes the sound tighter.
Does it make me play any tighter?
Absolutely, yeah. That's the focus control, isn't it? Focus. So let's, whilst now I've just sort of given you a rough explanation of what those are, if you could just do some playing for a minute or two, and I'll just whiz through and demonstrate what these do.
Do you want it on this modern bass, or do you want it on an older style bass?
Let's ask the people. What would you like? Right, there's moderns.
Oh well, that's handy.
They like the extra. They like the B string.
Do they?
Cool. Let's have a fiddle array and see how we get on. Right, that's completely flat, and now we'll start noodling away. Well, I left that on this EQ shape number 2 for the bulk of that demo, because I think that's the one that Nathan and I both decided that we liked the best, which by the looks of the diagram...
There's a little visual indicator on these 4 settings. The first one is flat, obviously, because it's a straight line.
Yeah.
The next one is a little bit smiley face, which means bottom and top cut, mid... No, bottom and top boost.
That's it.
Mid cut. And then number 3 is a more extreme version of that, and then 4's with a mid boost,
like a mid hump, isn't it? So you might find in a sort of a, in a rock band gigging scenario, pre-shape 4 might give you a bit more of a cut through, and then if you're playing more sort of soul-y, funky kind of stuff, then 2 or 3, and of course you can, add the EQ kind of works in conjunction with that. What were you feeling on the touch? The tilt was fairly obvious, because if you turn it up here, it gets quite trebly, and if you turn it down here, you get insane amounts of bass end kind of come in.
Dude, I couldn't see what you were doing.
The touch. I'll do the touch control again. This I don't really know. Is this changing the way it responds and feels? This didn't sound so tonal.
All right.
In terms of
you have a fiddle. Yeah. I'll play something. What's it supposed to do?
I don't know. Just says touch.
Pull tight. Do that.
I think it's just another EQ control, isn't it?
That sounds a bit, a bit more focused, I suppose. Let me try a bit of slap, see if that helps. Yeah, that was definitely.
It's a bit more subtle, that touch one, isn't it? So now, nothing really that that you sort of see on the bottom row there is terribly innovative and new. It's.
Sorry to stop you there. What was tilt? What's that then?
Tilt was the one that gave tons of bass end or tons of top end. That was really obvious. If you do it again, I'll show you. So that was like lots of bass end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another just a tone control.
Right.
So yeah, the bottom row of controls there, is a pretty conventional set. I must say, all the knobs feel quite nice. Feels sort of sturdy.
See, Pete's not here today, so we can say things like the knobs feel nice.
That's true.
And nothing happens. There's not a titter.
I missed that.
Yes.
Hey Pete, hope you're having a nice holiday. But yes, so we can say knob and put it in and things like that.
Mid-hump.
Without having a Danish schoolboy giggling in the background. But,
what a shame.
Which I kind of miss in a way. But so there's three controls at the top. Now this is where it definitely, in addition to the whole what's going on the back, which again I'll show you in a second, this is where it kind of gets funky, and absolutely there's some elements to this of stuff that I've not seen in a bass amp before. The first one being reverb, and I think for any budding kind of Roger Waters type Pink Floydy thing out there, where they did use those, even like the bass lines had, big delays and reverbs and stuff on them. So yeah, check this out. You've got like a reverb setting, which is kind of cool. And I really like the way they've done it as well, which is, again, maybe you're watching this on close-up cam, I don't know, but each of the space and the interval controls, which are the two, and the focus control, which are the three controls controlling the effects, have a center détente. And détente. It's a new genre of music, isn't it? Détente. It's like gent, it's just more French. And anyway, as soon as I move it away from the center détente, it automatically turns the effect on, which actually, if you go to close-up cam, you'll see this little red light. Hopefully that's not obscured by one of the other knobs, but you can see it just comes on. So here's reverb. And again, the more I turn this up or down, the more reverb we'll get. So let's play something suitably atmospheric.
Well, that's not going to work, is it? Atmospheric. If I play long notes, you're not really going to hear the reverb.
Right,
if I play something a bit more staccato, you get a better.
Let's try that then.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're
the pro.
Completely the opposite of. Well, you say that. We shall see. Right, are you turning it on?
It's on.
It's the 80s.
No, slap bass with reverb doesn't work at all. It needs.
It does. It sounds just like the.
Is that what they used to do in the 80s?
Probably.
Probably. I don't remember any bass lines with reverb on from the 80s.
That thing on the theme tune from Seinfeld, I'm sure it sounded like that. It was actually a synth bass, but it certainly had reverb on it.
So let's play something maybe less slappy and more finger picky and just.
All right.
It's Stanley Clarke.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
What it is. Reverb works better as an atmospheric. I know what you mean.
All right, you win.
I just think it sounds more usable.
It's subjective, isn't it?
It is subjective. Anyway, look, so it's got reverb on it, and in the other direction, it's got chorus on it. So let's have a bit of chorus on your bass.
Clarke.
That
mate.
is so.
Oh, yeah, I like that. It's
Oh
nice.
man, and I don't know how many bass players will be watching this that aren't familiar with School Days by Stanley Clarke, but that is an album. In fact, even if you're not a bass player, which obviously I'm not a bass player, and I love that album. He had the mega band for that, didn't he? Wasn't it like Al Di Meola and?
Oh, don't test me on
Trying to
that.
think
This
who
is
the-
it. I
who the
see.
drummer
This is.
was.
I should know all this. I do know this. I'm just not going to
It's
say.
a great. But yeah, it's really weird. That whole
I think
kind
Jeff
of
Beck was on it.
Was he really?
Yeah. There you go.
What a
I mean,
band.
how good do you want
Anyway, it's a great, and Nathan did do that. Down.
Yeah.
So, that's what the space control does, basically.
It takes you into space.
It takes you into space in another dimension. Interval, now again, same thing. If I turn it one way, you get one effect, the other another effect. So we've got an octave effect and a fifth, which is sometimes doesn't work, but seems to work really cool on this. But anyway, let's do the octave first. Let's do this. Which I love octave used right on bass fattens things up so immensely.
Yeah.
And then the other way is the fifth control. So here we go, which is obviously giving you a fifth note. Is it above or below? I think it's above, isn't
It's
it?
above. Fifth above, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, going back to this is like the Stanley Clarke amplifier.
It is. It's basically
because, right, one of my favourite bands of all time is Return to Forever. And that was Stanley Clarke, Lenny
Corea.
White, Chick Corea, Bill Connors originally.
Wasn't
on
that
guitar,
Chick Corea's band, or was it?
Al Di Meola.
Was it a sort of a?
I think the other guys might.
Okay, they might.
They might take
object to
issue with that, but
Fair
Chick
enough.
probably thought it was his band. Yeah.
That is honestly, all these great albums that from the '70s were such a great time. What
There
else
was
were you
actually
into
the
from
first lineup had Ayrton on drums, Joe Farrell on sax. This is so boring. I'm sorry about this. And Stanley Clarke on bass. And but if I don't say it, I know somebody's going to comment and go, "That wasn't the original lineup." Was it?
Oh, what a band!
It was a fantastic band. Absolutely one of my favourites. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the fifth, that was something that Return to Forever used loads, but obviously more kind of synth orientated because they didn't have it.
Because we can have
for bass.
reverb and fifth. Let's do that.
Can we?
Yeah. Do that.
I'm so
Come on.
excited. There you go.
I'm loving this. Maybe it's the guitarist in me that just loves silly effects on my sound. Anyway, and then there's a, what's it called? There's a focus control over here, which kind of changes the tone of either the sub-octave or the fifth. So again, if I...
Broadly speaking, I think we've decided
it's
it's like
brighter
a
or
tone.
fatter, doesn't
It's
it?
a tone for the effect.
Yeah. So as you're playing, I'll...
All right, here we go.
Yeah. I do apologise. I've just realised that our floor is a bit wonky. So as I'm leaning over and changing knobs, I apologise if I've made the amp wobble a bit. But anyway, so look, that's kind of your basic sort of tones that you can get from the front panel.
It's never ending. The features on this
Look
amplifier
at
are never
is that the
ending.
busiest back panel you've ever seen on an amp ever?
Back panel? Come on,
So
surely.
okay, let's whiz you through these. I mean, there's not really anything to demonstrate audibly on here, so I'm just going to tell you about this. So DI output with a pre and post output selection and a ground lift. Balanced DI, of course, with a level control. USB reamp, which is also can also be used as the send as part of a send and return. Headphone socket with its own level control, and again, the choice of either listening to your USB playback or just listening to the amplifier. Auxiliary in on a mini jack, so if you just want to jam to you know, you've got some tracks on your iPhone or something like that, plug it in there. You've got a level control. Effects loop. Oh no, sorry, the send. I ignore my last bit about reamp also being part of the send. It's not. It's just a dedicated reamp in, because send and return is over here. Again with various levels to line up to whether you're using rack equipment or pedals or whatever, or even a bypass control if you just don't like the sound of your amp with an effects loop on, you can bypass it.
Wow.
There's a tuner output here which will always give you the raw output, so no matter what effects you add on, that won't come out the tuner output, which is good. And then an optional extra 4-way foot switch, which I've got to try and remember now, does stuff like, I think it changes the shape
I can remember
on
this one. I'm sure it's...
Focus, mute.
Yeah, mute. Is isn't it these and the mute?
Compressor. I think it's the compressor.
It does
four things.
And welcome to We Don't Know What the Hell We're Talking
we
About.
know nothing about bass is the new name for this. So yeah, it definitely is definitely did the mute and three other things. Oh, they can look it up if they're that interested at what it does. I'll put a link.
It does
in the
4
description
things,
below.
and they're all great. But most usefully, yeah, the mute. So if you've got a tuner hooked up to it,
you can. Oh, this is clever. You can cabinet match here. So normally, let me just have a quick understand it. I thought that this was 500 watts only into 4 ohms, and therefore if you used 8 ohms, you'd get about 2/3 of that. But there's I wonder if the whole idea of the cabinet match is that as long as you select that correctly, you'll get the 500 watts into whether you use a 4 or an 8 ohm.
there you go.
And of course, if you use 2 8 ohms, that runs it at 4 ohms. So look, that's kind of it. I'd have to guess what the weight of this is by just, but it's probably, it's not the lightest of all the little mini heads, but it's probably, I don't know, 5 kilos, something like that. All metal. As I said, designed by the wonderful people at Laney in very close to Birmingham. They are.
It's feature packed, I think.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, and I
It's
tell
got
you
a
the other
valve in it. Did you tell them that? It's got like a valve in the
right at the
preamp
beginning, I
bit?
did. Valve at the preamp, which I guess the more you drive the gain, the more you'll kind of hear the valve characteristics kind of kick in.
Right.
And dual voltage as well.
And how much is it?
£525 for the head.
Seems reasonable for
Does
all that.
seem reasonable, doesn't it? And it's about 800, maybe 850, something like that for this really rather attractively covered cabinet. Well, I like the blue. Is it called beading?
Yeah, you could, yeah.
Do you know, if Pete was here and I said beading, he'd probably laugh at that as well.
He probably would, yeah.
As he has different kind of beads, I think Pete does. And nice handles.
I see.
I tell you what, the other thing that we can do on the combo, which we can't do on the head, which I wasn't sure if it would make any difference, but there is a switch on the back that enables or disables the horn and runs it at a half power mode. So let's see if I can. Welcome, Taylor. Our
he was quick then. Did you see
our deputy. Yeah.
In fact, I'd say Taylor was swift.
Can you see the 2 red switches? Horn fully on.
Oh,
Whoa!
Yeah. Now it sounds even better. Wow.
Yeah, I have to apologise there to all of you viewers there, as we did the entire demo without realising the horn was switched off. So let's have a little segment again with the horn switched in.
Very toppy.
Yeah, half horn.
Yeah, that's half horn.
No horn.
No horn.
I think half horn, please, Mr. Horn Adjuster.
Hey, that's you though, isn't it? Always right down the middle. You're very...
Half horn, and maybe just a slight adjustment of the EQ.
What
now,
are we gonna do?
I'm just going to try and re-EQ this to get a sound that I like. Whether you'll hear any difference at all, because as I said, whether the horn's on or off is not going to affect the DI output, and the horn, I'm guessing, is somewhere up here, and the microphone's over here, so even what you'll hear through the mic may be limited. But it made a big difference in the room. You know, it radically changed the sound that we were hearing out the amplifier. Okay, so I think what I want to do is just take a little bit of the treble off, and what does that sound like now? Maybe put a bit of compression in. I like. are going to get, I've been very, very positive about this amplifier so far because I like it a lot. But I'm going to end on it, not end, I'm going to insert a slightly critical note of this.
Oh.
Which probably is a bit unfair even on the product and more perhaps a criticism of just every compact bass amplifier.
Yeah.
Tiny weeny cab, lots of volume, difficult then not to get cabinet rattle, I think. Perhaps it's worse on a combo even than because where you've got the actual amplifier inside the cabinet, there's a whole ton of air moving. But if you know, I've turned it up just a smidgen now, and if you, I don't know if you could even hear that, but certainly in the room there's like a little bit of cabinet rattle.
Yeah.
You hear it?
Oh, I can hear that.
But is that like you'd never hear that at a gig, or you know, once the rest of the band's playing? Or am I just being overly picky?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you ain't going to hear that when it's DI'd. So in the studio, it's not going to affect it. And at a gig, listen, with the
yes,
but with the drum kit going at full.
No, that's
not going to bother you.
I guess that's one of the reasons why you know the whole head and cab is. I still think the sort of for pure sort of audio reasons, head and cab I'd always go, but for for its compact nature, I do like that. And you're right, you won't hear any of that through the DI, will you? So maybe I'm just being needlessly picky.
Yeah.
So
and you don't like loud things anyway. You always make a fuss.
I know. So do you want to groove out to something?
I do.
To show people again in context.
What should we do?
Well. So, good job, Laney.
Yeah, we like this, don't we?
We do. We like this a lot. We might even keep this amplifier just for some other demos today because I liked it. And it's British, and that's important these days. So
It might be.
There we are. It might be important. If you're British, it probably is important.
No, of course it is important, but who knows in the future?
In the
Might be even
future,
more important.
in the future, it could be more important. It could be less important. It might not even be British in the future. It could be just European, or it could be the United States. What are we? The 53rd state of America. Who knows which way it's going to go? How many states are there? 51st, 53rd, 52nd, whatever. However many you've got at the moment, we might be the next one.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Well, you don't know.
Or it could flip its way out. Could flip its way the other way. Could be the United States of the Kingdom. They might join us.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Less
going to
likely.
happen.
Less likely. You know, it'd be a laugh though, wouldn't it?
It'd be a lot of fun.
Right. Links below to this in the description section below. Please subscribe if we haven't put you off. I've been the captain.
And I've been...
Fantastic. We'll see you next time, I hope.
Bye.